their orchestras, because it's not always an easy thing, to have the National Symphony of the U.S. invite you to the Kennedy Center. It's like a really big honor, and it's not every day that happens. And as a musician, it's, at least for a certain type of musician, it's kind of like the pinnacle of your career. For me, it was one of the high moments to play in the Kennedy Center. So it's been great, but I just want to play. I just want to get together with musicians and make music, and I love doing game music, and I've got a lot of good friends and colleagues in the game music world that have supported me over the years. So I kind of want to give back to them and give back to the audience, bring this great music to people.
Talk about the productions that you've actually composed.
Yeah, so I've composed music for The Sims, SimCity. I've orchestrated live music for Halo, Super Mario Brothers, a couple of games here. I orchestrated Portal 2. Now, these are just the live concert versions, not the music that you're hearing in the game. What else do I do? Overwatch, and the list goes on.
So have you done actual compositions for games themselves?
Yeah, so I did SimCity. I did the SimCity series, which I really loved. It was a very different kind of music, right? Because in SimCity, there's no real middle and ending. There's a beginning, but it's a simulator game, so you're building cities, and once you start, there could be no end. So there was a big challenge in writing the music for that game, so that was really fun, really interesting. The Sims, and I did a couple of older games called like Shadowin and The Far Reaches. God, I don't remember anymore all of the different titles that I've worked on. Quite a bit. I've been with the Civ team, the Civilization team, now for like 15 or 20 years, since the first Civilization 5 came out. Now we're on Civilization 7. So it's been quite a run with those folks, which is they're a great group. The folks at 2K are amazing.
So now are you taking on new episodes of new games? I mean, what's the market for your talent?
Yeah, it used to be up until about 8 years ago that my bread and butter was as a composer and an orchestrator. And then because of the mobility of my family and my wife being a diplomat and us moving all the time, I focused more on conducting, which I had been doing, but conducting wasn't the main focus of my work life. It was sort of the secondary focus, and composing was the main focus. And then when we moved to Switzerland, about 2 years before we moved, I sort of saw that it would be necessary for me to shift and go into conducting. So I built Game On. I spent about two and a half years contacting publishers, talking about what I was going to do with the game industry. Luckily, I had like 25 years of experience with people in the game industry, so a lot of people knew me, and I was able to convince everyone to do a concert, so we did.
Any interest in doing a game yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I've done games
Have you?
in the past, yeah. I think at this point, I'm so involved with Game On and the Civ franchise. I would do a new game. I think I would be very discerning about the type of game that I would do. I wouldn't mind doing like an indie game or something new. A new title that comes up might be kind of cool.
So when you say indie games, what do you mean by indie games?
Independent games that aren't necessarily obviously backed by a large publisher. Games that are usually with smaller teams, maybe not as well known. It's actually how I got my start in films. I started actually in film, scoring all these really kind of offbeat indie films, independent films that weren't backed by studios, and had a lot of luck with those. And then that led to Disney films and other types of things. And so yeah, maybe getting back to my roots a little bit. But I also like to take some time and just write music just for my own sake.
Disney, how's Disney going? Is there any more opportunities with Disney?
No, so my Disney alliance or sort of connection was when I was in my late 20s or early 30s. I won an award from an organization called ASCAP. They had this award, this contest for the best young film composer in the country, in the United States. And I won it. To my shock, I mean, I sort of entered as a joke. There were 9 winners, and I was one of the 9. And so part of the winning prize was that you got to go to Hollywood and score music for films on like big stages like Fox Newman Soundstage. Oh, look at that, where John Williams scored Star Wars and stuff. When I finished with that, I had a bunch of agents say to me, hey, you should move to Hollywood because that's where all the action is for films. And I wanted to go back to New York, so I went back to New York. And I felt like from that experience, my orchestration skills were kind of the weakest link. So a friend of mine knew this guy, Danny Trube, and Danny Trube was the lead orchestrator for all the big Disney hits of the 90s. So I wrote to Danny, I told him who I was and what I was doing, and I asked him if I could study with him. And I was like 32 at the time. And Danny was, I think he's about 16 years older than me, so he was probably in his mid-40s or something. And he was doing like Pocahontas and Aladdin and Little Mermaid at that time. And so he took me on as a student, and I studied with him for 3 years. And then at the end of those 3 years, he started giving me little writing assignments on some of his films, and that led to the connection with Disney. And then that sort of just kind of drifted. I mean, I'm still in touch with Danny, we're still good friends, but I don't do too much Disney stuff. Every now and then something small might come up, but not too much.
As a composer, how do you connect the music with the emotions and the visual of gaming?
Yeah, it's a good question because I don't know that there's any one specific answer that sort of fits all composers. I think for me, what it was my mom is an artist. And when I was a kid, she had her art studio in the basement of our house. And she was painting oil on canvas. And I would, having her paint art and having a visual medium was part of my life. Now, I didn't gravitate towards visual arts, I gravitated towards the musical arts. But I think what happened was I learned this very deep connection to image. And my natural tendency was to music. So when I combined the two, in like a film or a game where you're writing music for image, for me it became very natural. Like I can see something, like I can see this hall and I hear something in this hall. Like a composition or a theme or something.
So you actually see something, you feel something, and then somehow you put that into your composition?
I hear it.
You actually hear it?
I actually hear it. So like I look at this hall and I can actually hear a piece of music that is representing what I would conceive of as this hall. I mean, with the dark sort of tones of the balcony and the lighter landscapes on the back seats of the seat, there's a certain, if I were to actually score this, the orchestrations I would have kind of, not loud, but kind of pastoral brass, which would represent kind of the light in the back, and then the lower woodwinds, which would represent above the brass. I would have the lower woodwinds, which would kind of represent the upper.
Where's the woodlands again?
They would be up in the top. The lower woodwinds, like the bassoons, low clarinets, bass clarinet. I'd have brass playing like some kind of a theme here, and then strings maybe just playing counterpoint and some kind of, not foreground melodic material, but a melodic counterpoint. That's how I hear this hall. Oh God, that sounds really fun.
No, it sounds great. I'm trying to pick it up.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about a game right now, and you would have to create a game before you create that music, I guess. What type of a game? I mean, can you visualize, if you want, right now, what kind of a game you would put together? I mean, what are some of the ideas?
Well, I don't know that I have a real imagination for the creation of games. I'm not really a game developer in that sense. I'm a musician, so.
No concepts for games, though? I mean, you're thinking of concepts with music.
I don't really have concepts of games. I mean,
okay.
Other than just my reaction to certain games, there's a new game that I just saw called Maestro, it's like a virtual reality conducting simulator. And it just caught my eye because I'm a conductor, and so I was wondering, if that was of any value or valid.
I'd like to see the book that you write about all the games. In other words, you gave some excellent portrayals and connections, so to speak, between games. Can you talk a little bit about that? You must be a big gamer. You must be somebody that really understands the art.
I'm not actually as big a gamer as most people think. Primarily because I don't have a lot of time to really dedicate to playing games, and so a lot of my gaming is with my son.
Wow.
So we play together, and it's a way that we can connect. And then just if I'm working on something and I have the opportunity to play the game, then I will. Most of the pieces that we've done, I've played through the games for a little while, just so that it feels authentic. But I think for me, my presence in the game world is really as a messenger of the music to the gaming audience. So that, you know, when you're a gamer and you're playing, you're really involved in the visual feedback and the visceral experience of that visual feedback. And I always thought that the music in games was really special and extraordinary. And so for me, a lot of it was, you know, my connection to gaming was really presenting the music to the audience, the gaming audience. And now, over the past several years, trying to attract even a non-gaming audience, just saying, hey, here's some new orchestral music, let's check it out.
I was impressed the way that you handled the crowd today. They reacted to you very warmly. I mean, you connected with them.
Yeah.
Not only did you know the games, but you knew how to reach the audience, which is very unusual, especially for a conductor.
Yeah. I have a background as a music professor, and so although the scale is a little bit smaller, I'm used to standing up in front of people. And I think to be an effective professor, I had to be an entertainer. So, you know, that was aloha to everybody. Thanks, Hawaii, for having me. I had such a